Are we live? Are we live? Yes. Alright, so we're just watching random shit. I'm eating right now. I want to react to some more Gideons and most like the YouTube and internet beef shit later on, but right now I'm eating and I don't really want to talk much. Excuse me, shit. So I'm gonna just watch this. I'm big into tech. I used to fix phones. I used to fix computers. Still kind of do, you know what I'm saying? So let's just watch this shit for
Titanium iPhone 15 Pro Max has had a very long, tired day, and it's not over yet. If we're going to get the lowdown on Apple's newest titanium smartphone, this first day of my iPhone's life will also need to be his last day.
I'll watch this shit, man.
Apple is using titanium on their newest iPhone 15 Pro Max. Titanium is the coolest metal on the planet for many reasons. It's biocompatible, used for creating artificial joints, repairing human bones, not to mention build interstellar spacecraft and to construct robots that crawl other planets. And of course it's on my ring. My ring has titanium that I reclaimed from a wheelchair. Titanium comes in quite a few different flavors, grade 1 being the cheapest, softest, and easiest to machine, which is what I thought the iPhone was going to be. But then Apple slapped a grade 5 on the screen and I got rocked, in more ways than one. And let me show you why. I happen to have some 1-inch titanium bar stock laying around, as people often do. This guy costs $170. For example, this 6061 aluminum bar of the exact same proportions only cost me $10. Aluminum is what smartphones are normally made from, and the color difference between the two metals is glorious to behold, especially as it's heated. The main reason my jerry-rig knife is only $15 is because I'm using an aluminum alloy and not a titanium alloy. And keep in mind, this solid rod is only grade 2 titanium. I'm too poor to buy a full rod of grade 5 titanium, since a single notepad-sized paper-thick sliver already costs $106 all by itself. If we do some simple math and scale this 0.5 mm thick piece of metal up to a hypothetical 8.5 mm block, thick enough to mill a phone out of, we would be looking at almost $2,000 worth of grade 5 titanium. And that's not even including the complexity of milling and shaping grade 5 and the dollar.
That titanium burn, bro. Tomei that, bro. When they get the Tomei exhaust and they do that right there,
There's worth of iPhone hardware that goes inside. So the math just ain't mathin', and there's no way Apple suddenly decided to make negative profit on each iPhone sold. You might have noticed that titanium reacts in a very unique way as it gets torched, oxidizing in extremely predictable and consistent rainbows, going from yellow to purple to blue to light blue and back to gray again as it gets really hot. You might be thinking to yourself, hey Jerry, are you even gonna unbox the iPhone? And I say yes. Let's jump in and see what this iPhone is made from, and also how well it can handle the heat of everyday life.
Hit that subscribe button. I went to Best Buy earlier. That shit was sexy, bro. I was like, oh no.
If you haven't already, then let's get started. Inside the brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max box, we find the phone itself. This blue titanium is almost the same shade as the blued titanium that I made. Looking under the phone, this time we find there's no lightning cable. Instead, we have a brand new braided USB-C cable. I imagine the world will soon follow Apple's lead on this one, and we'll start seeing this port everywhere. Probably the closest thing we'll ever see to world peace. And honestly, the phone does feel good. About the same as any other rectangular phone, but the brushed titanium and the etched back glass do feel super cool. But the imitation blue shade is just ever so much off from the actual shade of blue titanium that I think it would bother me long term. Apple said again that this screen glass is the strongest glass ever on a smartphone. They call it ceramic shield, and I agree. It is a pretty solid slab of glass. We normally see plastic screens scratch at a level 2 or 3, glass at 5 or 6, and sapphire would be an 8 or 9. This dual ion exchange ceramic shield does still scratch at a level 6, with deeper grooves at a level 7, but level 6 does appear to be quite a bit more faint than usual. and I do think Apple is onto something with this proprietary glass. The front selfie camera is tucked into the dynamic island and is protected by that same slab of glass. The earpiece is a razor-thin slit between the glass and the frame. No speaker grills to fall out or get dirty. Making our way over to the titanium sides, Apple's using something called a PVD coating, a physical vapor deposition. It's a pretty wild method of applying an ultra-thin protective layer over the titanium. I don't know enough about PVD to talk about it in depth, but you know, it is scratchable.
Damn,
exactly like the anodized aluminum. Everything except for this 5G antenna slot. For some reason this oval is just not scratching. I think they should make a whole phone out of whatever this stuff is.
Fact, so that shit just went straight through.
The power button is scratchable, however, and not removable, along with the top and entire left side.
I knew when I got there, when I had touched the phone, I was like, yo, this shit's kind of cheap feeling. Like, it wasn't. But no, I was like, this shit kind of cheap feeling. Like, I could touch my phone, and it was like, okay, it felt like something worth $1,000. That shit felt like the regular 15. Like, low-key, like titanium wear.
It took Apple 14 hours to apply this finish, and my jerry-rig knife 14 seconds to unapply the finish.
That's crazy.
The new action button is scratchable, and our USB-C port down near the bottom is an actual USB 3 with 10 gigabit transfer speeds. The regular iPhone 15 is just USB 2, and if you don't know what that means, you'll be just fine with either. The matte back glass, which every phone should have, does not scratch. The Apple logo in the center is the only thing that's smooth. One thing that Apple did change up quite a bit this year is with the cameras. We still get that gradual gradient built into the tinted glass that rises up to the camera plateau, and some of these camera upgrades we won't be able to see until the teardown. But Apple says these 3 lenses that we can see are actually 7. Gotta LOL a bit at that absolute stretch. Here at the bottom we have a 48 megapixel main camera, which apparently has a nanoscale coating on the lens to reduce glare. The coating luckily does not scratch off or fracture. The coolest camera is definitely the middle one, a 12 megapixel 5x tetraprism telephoto lens that redirects and reflects light 4 times before hitting a 3D sensor shift OIS stabilizer. If there's one reason to take apart the iPhone 15 Pro Max, it's to see what in the world that looks like from the inside. Then up top we have a 12 megapixel ultrawide. Apparently, these 2 cameras on the edge can work together like 2 eyeballs to generate spatial video, which crazy. I don't want to be the guy to beat a dead horse, but that was something Android did 12 years ago with the HTC Evo 3D, probably before some of you kidlets with iPhones were even born. Gotta honor your ancestors. Apple said during their event that the back glass panel is easily removable to facilitate repairability, which is a huge commendable move.
Wait, what?
Is easily removable to facilitate repairability, which is a huge commendable move.
Right.
And then in the same sentence, Apple said that the internal structure of the iPhone 15 Pro Max is made from 100% recycled aluminum, which immediately tells us 2 things. One, it's nice to see that there's more than just the iPhone design that gets recycled every year. And 2, the internal frame is not solid grade 5 titanium, only the exterior. This explains quite a bit. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has a 6.7-inch OLED display with 2000 nits of outdoor brightness and 120 Hz refresh rate, and lasts for about infinity seconds before having no reaction to my lighter. Nice work, Apple. We'll try out my big boy lighter in a second. It's time to see if the new blended aluminum titanium grafted hybrid structure compromises the structural integrity of the iPhone 15 Pro Max.
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I did not see that one coming. You've been watching me durability test smartphones for about 11 years now, and most phones do not break. iPhones especially do not break, like ever. And that snap was abnormally quick. Kinda stunned. I'm not sure if it's because the grade 5 titanium frame has nearly 3 times more tensile strength than aluminum, or half the elasticity, but the glass did not like being pressed or flexed by my thumb. That's crazy. On the first bend, too. Internally, the phone itself is doing fine, of course. There's no cracking or shattering of the frame. But the back glass is definitely obliterated.
That's probably why they made it so easy to
use. So it only costs $200 to replace instead of $500. But still, if I was a person who just purchased a $1,200 titanium iPhone 15 Pro Max, I would be extremely nervous right now.
I literally was just saying, like, I want to upgrade to this shit. That's crazy, bro. Like, you know how hard it is to crack like, it's not just like a 11. I mean, not 11, but like a regular iPhone. This is the Pro Max. It's supposed to be the toughest of the toughest. It's supposed to be the most rigged one. This is supposed to be like, and that shit just bent. Not even bent, but like, that shit just cracked in one push. Bro, that's crazy.
Anyway, I did not plan on that happening, but you gotta admit, the crack looks pretty cool. The Apple iPhone 15 Pro Max does not survive my durability test, which means it's time for the big boy lighter. The PVD coating is already an imitation blue, which would make any actual blue in
oh God, I want to see. Bro, if that shit actually changes colors, niggas gonna be doing that shit for real.
Cool to see.
That's what I was waiting for.
Down and expose some bare titanium, we might be able to see if Apple's Grade 5 reacts the same way as my Grade 5. That's some pretty good looking brushed titanium. Still not sure why it takes Apple 14 hours. I'm using a MAP gas torch, which I think, along with burning my desk, is actually lighting some of the titanium dust on fire. You can see the sparks glow white as they sputter away from the phone. Now, the titanium itself could probably handle the heat, but the screen and the phone circuitry, not so much. The torch definitely accomplishes what my lighter could not. And if we look super close at the iPhone frame, we can see it start to change colors from the heat. Apple is indeed using real titanium. Is it Grade 5 though? I do have ways of finding out. I think it's getting kind of hot in here. Now, everyone knows the whole point of getting a new iPhone is so that everyone knows you have a new iPhone. Hiding it in a black plastic case would wholly and entirely defeat the purpose. And wow, side note, natural titanium is the move for sure. However, getting a transparent case to show off your phone is dangerous, since most clear cases are made of thermoplastic polyurethane, which when exposed to ultraviolet radiation undergoes the irreversible process of photooxidation. Sunlight makes clear cases turn yellow. So on the off chance you ever do go outside, you won't have a clear case anymore.
But just put in some...
Enter my channel sponsor, Dbrand.
There's a way to get rid of all that oxidation, I believe. I have to test it out, but I'm pretty sure it's the same way how your Jordans or your like shoes, you know how you get some clear soles and you start wearing them a lot, they turn yellow. And what they would do is take some like Salon Care 40 and just put it on there, put it in the sun to reverse the oxidization. So what I'm thinking, if you can do that to the shoes, you could do that to the cases because they're pretty much the same material. I'm just talking shit.
Dbrand has inexplicably found a way to defeat the sun with their never yellowing complete.
Alright, enough said. I want to see this shit right here.
My titanium iPhone 15 Pro Max has had a very long, tired day, and it's not over yet. If we're gonna get the
hold on, look at the heat. Like, look at how like right here, like it made it change color up under the. Like I'm thinking, like if people get their hands on this phone and take all the internals out, and then try to heat that casing up, even with the glass on the back, that's just gonna make some beautiful ass colors, yo. That's some unique ass shit. Apple should have did that.
On Apple's newest titanium smartphone, this first day of my iPhone's life will also need to be his last day. And it's only fair we give him one last sip of electrons before he goes. My channel sponsor Anchor just released a in just 30 or just till I saw it.
Hold on, that's actually a pretty cool case. Hold on.
If manage, so we know just how much juice is left. Didn't know I wanted that till I saw it. If you're looking for an even smaller nanobank, this guy's got a bi-directional charger that both recharges itself and charges other devices with the same little flippy port that's long enough to reach up through a protective case. And it still has enough capacity inside to fully charge up even the biggest iPhone. And finally, the trippiest charger of the bunch, the Anker Nano 6-in-1 charging station. Check this out. Not only does it store super flat on a desk or something so you can use the USB ports, but when you go to plug it into a normal pronged device, it rises up to meet the occasion. I almost want to take this thing apart instead of the iPhone. The Anker Nano 6-in-1 is great for traveling since it's small when you don't need it and big when you do. Anker's been charging up all of my personal phones for the last 3 years.
Bluetooth?
And you can check out all the chargers and their colors with the link in the description. Now, it's officially time to say goodbye to our iPhone 15 Pro Max. Farewell, my friend.
Shout out Jerry Reed.
The goal of this teardown is to accomplish a few things. One, see if we can find that unholy junction of titanium and aluminum inside the frame. And 2, I've got to see the inside of this new 5X Tetra Prism telephoto lens. With the 2 pentalobe screws removed near our new USB-C port, we are well on our way to getting answers. With some heat and a powerful suction cup and my handy-dandy jerry-rig razor knife, I can slice in between the plastic bezel of the screen and the titanium edge of the phone. Titanium is just fun to say. This removal process is much harder than it looks, by the way. First-time screen repairs are usually never successful. With the IP68 glue cutaway and the brackets lifted up and out of the frame, we get our first look inside the iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's clean, organized, and an absolute nightmare from here on out.
It's a big-ass battery.
A new cute little addition, though, is this springy foil tape stuff on top of the camera unit, loudspeaker, and Taptic engine. What is this for, you ask?
Yes.
I have no idea. The battery has a warning, trained technician, serviceable only, and good news for us, I took a karate class once when I was 10, so I'm definitely a trained technician.
Bruh.
Was that like
this nigga's just saying ka-chow.
So I'm definitely a trained technician. Ka-chow. Was that Lightning McQueen? To unplug the battery, we use our first of 4 different screwdriver bits, a tri-point. There's 6 screws around the large main plate. And even though the 15 Pro Max is IP68 water resistant, Apple still stuck a little water damage indicator sticker in here next to the circuit board, which will tattle on you if liquid ever gets inside. Apple doesn't trust nobody. The red bleeds through the sticker to make it pink when it gets wet. The battery plug is a convenient positive and negative icon on the Lego style ribbon connector, and then we can pop off the 2 screen ribbons. Not too shabby. With the very thin screen taken off and set to the
he'll set a screen for $1,000 right now.
Side, we can use a plastic pry tool to pop off 11 more Lego style ribbon connectors from the motherboard.
He got that shit.
There are 3 standoff screws and a 4th tucked way up under the loudspeaker in the left corner, which is held in place by a few screws of its own. The upper loudspeaker doesn't have any foam balls inside, but that's okay. Now here's where things start to get interesting. There appears to be a ribbon leading over to the 5G antenna that's soldered to the back of the motherboard.
Oh.
Not super normal. And peeling it off the motherboard reveals that I was most definitely not supposed to peel it off the motherboard.
That's crazy.
There is a secondary ribbon that's probably for the rear wireless charger and stuff. We'll find out more when we take off the back glass. It's crazy that this little guy, this tiny little singular stacked motherboard, is the entirety of the iPhone 15 Pro experience. Every blue bubble, every message, every like, heart, thumbs up, emoji, smiley face, GIF, picture taken, and video watched all happen right here, inside a space no bigger than a human thumb.
That's crazy.
Apple says that 100% of the copper and tin used in this motherboard has been recycled, which is pretty cool. The 12-megapixel front-facing camera and sensor array come out next without any qualms. No OIS yet. The absolutely massive triple camera setup comes out next. These units probably take up more real estate than the entire motherboard. Apple says all the gold inside of these units has also been previously recycled. We have a 48-megapixel main camera at the bottom, then the ultra-cool 5x Tetra Prism camera in the middle, with the 12-megapixel wide-angle camera up top. The side 2 units are the ones that do the spatial video thing for the goggle thing. I'm pumped to take apart the Tetra Prism later. Whoever came up with that name needs a raise. Sounds kind of like an old-school Street Fighter move. Tetra Prism. With a bunch more screws taken out of the bottom of the phone, we get access to the Taptic engine, also using recycled tungsten, and our lower loudspeaker with its waterproofing mesh over the opening. No visible balls on this speaker either, so that might just be an Android thing. Or Apple will invent it in a couple years. Check this.
I swear Apple had balls in one of their speakers. I can't remember if it was Apple or not.
Up though, a bright neon orange gasket for the loudspeaker opening. Orange is the coolest. If this ain't a sign from Tim Cook to go buy an orange jerry-rig knife, then I don't know what it is. Thanks, Tim. Now, another significant upgrade this year is the USB-C port. But just like with every iPhone released in the last decade, there are 17 trillion different size screws holding it in place. So many, in fact, that we're just not going to deal with it right now, and I'll deal with it after we get the back glass and battery off. The back glass, I assumed, would normally come off in one piece. However, mine shattered during the durability test and now wants to come off in lots of pieces. I also committed an ultimate blunder and accidentally had my camera off for most of the removal process. But don't worry, I saved the good bits for you.
How is that supposed to be easy?
Like this wireless charging pad, which is also made from 100% recycled copper, And surprisingly, the little magnets that surround the outside are also 100% recycled. I have no idea how magnets get recycled, nor do I understand how magnets even work in the first place. If my back glass was in one piece, it probably would have been a whole lot easier to remove. The metal frame below the glass does appear to have a silver gleam of aluminum, and not the tannish hue of titanium. I think we're getting close to finding out where the aluminum stops and the titanium starts. Looks like the large L-shaped battery does have magic pull tabs holding it in place, but I also have a full circle of access from the back that I can use to push it out and away from the frame. Apple's pull tabs are great and all, but they also scrunch them down so tiny next to the battery, making it pretty hard to grip them and use them. The Apple 15 Pro Max has a 4,441 milliamp hour battery that's made with 100% recycled cobalt. I feel that's actually like a really big deal that nobody's talking about. I can remove a few more screws that are holding the 5G antenna to the frame of the phone. It looks like this is indeed what was soldered to the back of the motherboard. Super strange. I wonder if...
So you have to take out the battery just to remove the fucking motherboard now. I think that's how it's always been done.
Lego-style ribbon connector on a cable this long just doesn't have the bandwidth needed to handle 5G. The whole phone design is kind of whack. It's like someone's friend owns a tiny screw factory and Apple is single-handedly trying to keep them in business. With another 5 trillion screws removed from the charging port antenna, we can pull the USB-C 3.0 up and out of the phone. From C to shining USB-C, the world has finally come together for one gloriously symmetrical oval data port. Now, when a phone gets anodized or PVD coated, this coating happens to the metal all at once. So when I see shiny bare metal inside of the phone, I know it's aluminum and a completely separate piece from our blue titanium that's on the outside. You can peek around the inner edge and see the blue titanium everywhere around the border, even a little window through the aluminum into the titanium. Apple says they bond the aluminum chassis architecture to the titanium with solid-state diffusion, an industry first, using a thermomechanical process that joins the metals with incredibly high strength. Personally, I think that extravagantly vague corporate speak means that Apple used an epoxy or thermoset of some kind to permanently fuse the inner aluminum with the outer titanium. Either way though, a very solid permanent bond has been formed, unless you have an angle grinder, which I do.
They say he's an angle grinder for that. See how fast it goes through that room.
No bond survives an angle grinder. To get an adequate cross-section though, we need to cut the frame completely in half. I'm starting to think this phone isn't going to be put back together again.
Hell no.
If we look really closely at the cross-section of the iPhone 15 Pro Max frame, we can see the two different shades of metals, the silver aluminum on the inside and the goldish hue of titanium on the outside. The thickness of titanium equates to exactly 1 millimeter, which by my estimate, based on the single sheet of grade 5 from our previous durability test video, is that there's about $30 worth of grade 5 titanium by weight in each of the iPhone 15 Pro Maxes. It's definitely not a full titanium frame, of course, more of a titanium adornment, but I by no means want to downplay the extreme skill and expertise it takes to work with titanium in the first place. It is not an easy thing to do, and the frame of this phone is still just as exquisite as every intern-generated buzzword at the event said it would be. 10 thumbs up to Apple for doing something new. Speaking of something new, let's spend our last few minutes together finding the 5X tetraprism. None of the camera units have external optical image stabilization. Apple's using sensor shift stabilization on both the main camera and the tetraprism. I don't care about the other cameras though, I mostly just want to see how this 120mm focal length equivalent gets its light rays reflected 4 times inside a glass structure. The cameras are all situated in one solid metal housing, so they can transition seamlessly between themselves without one of them being squampus. With the back metal broken off and the camera torn into, we get our first look at the 3D sensor shift module. The camera sensor itself does the shifting just below the lens. The itty-bitty copper coils on either side create energy fields to attract or repulse the center floating unit 10,000 times per second.
Damn.
In true Street Fighter fashion.
Ka-chow.
With the sensor removed, we can check out the lens and tetraprism that are still in the housing. As my orange jerry-rig knife, the one that Tim Cook likes, passes over the lens, we see it appear in the far side of the tetraprism, which isn't aligned with the front of the camera lens. Kinda cool. And the same thing works in reverse. Prisms are nifty. Let's go deeper. The lens and the prism should be two separate units, although still very much solidly connected in the same block of plastic. It's rather difficult to get them separated. But finally, we have the round circular lens and the rectangular tetraprism in two separate pieces. The prism acts as a long telephoto lens in a pretty similar way that the periscope camera works inside of a Samsung phone. The coolest part of this iPhone 15 Pro Max, though, is still the titanium.
Literally.
Its natural hue is so fine. I'm going to take this frame to an X-ray fluorescence lab to get a final verdict on what grade of titanium it is. It might take me a few days to find out, though. And speaking of natural titanium, I had a lot of people asking how the natural colored iPhone holds up to scratches. The natural titanium does look phenomenal with my teardown skin on the back. The brush finish is super clean, but like any metal, it can be scratched and scuffs do appear. It'll probably just be ever so slightly less noticeable than the colored version since the PVD coating isn't accentuating the scuff. The titanium body is still something worth keeping protected.
You know what would be cool though? Like if people took like the ones that is colored and shit like that, and then like they would like put their own etching into it, like almost like the phone had a tattoo type deal, and like write a name or like do certain designs on it so it can stick out. That is kind of cool though, but it sucks that
buying
it's
a protective case
really
and of course the ultra portable Anker Nano charger are always good.
Like it's not like the stainless steel ones. Like the stainless steel, like yeah, it gets stretched, but like I don't know. You just have to see how I do. But hell yeah, I gotta call my doctor real quick. I'm about to jump back on stream though, if my cursor would like to work.